Awesome. Well, I think we're live now. So, hey everyone. My name is Cedric. I work on dev tooling at Expo. Today we have some exciting stuff to show you from both Expo and Sentry. But let's give everyone a couple of minutes to join the stream. Um, did anyone by chance watch the React Universe live stream or even attended to? Um, that might be a fun thing.
Yeah, sadly, this year I haven't seen yet all the talks, but it's on my schedule to watch them out, watch them later this week, catch up with all the new stuff.
Yeah, there were some really exciting talks about from the Meta team around some updates around debugging in React Native. Funny enough, um, there were impressive upgrades. Yes. Oh, there were plenty. There were some impressive upgrades from the Hermes team, basically talking about possibly module support to like optimize for things in the whole project. There were even like some impressive improvements around bytecode translation, which like increased the performance by 50% in some cases. There's too
Nice.
many to name. So yeah, I mean, if you haven't, just go for it. It was great. Um,
Awesome.
well, I mean, there were a lot of things about like going in depth detail around yoga. There were some in depth details around like actually going into the SDK side, but what happens if you don't have like the Google Services API on Android? Plenty of good stuff. All right, I think it's time to get started with our demo. It's like that's a good one. How to decrease size in Expo. Lucky for that, we actually have Atlas, but that's for another day. If you're curious about it, go on the docs and search Expo Atlas. You'll find plenty of information to help decrease that. But without further ado, let me introduce you to our guest. Again, my name is Cedric Van Putten. I work on the dev tooling at Expo, doing many things. And today we're joined by.
Krystof Woldrich. I do the React Native SDK at Sentry, and we have prepared together a small e-commerce demo that we'll show you today. We used, of course, all the Expo tools, all the options from the React Native SDKs by Sentry, and we'll walk you through it and see if it all works or if we run into some issues. Should we dive in?
Let's take it away. I mean, the faster we get into it, the faster the goodies is shown.
All right, so let me start from the beginning. I'll open the app. It loads right to the store page. We can see some of the funny products we offer, like plants that can speak, plants that can move around. Absolutely banger stuff that I definitely all want to buy. And which one should I? Which one looks the nicest, do you think, Cedric?
I'm always for a moody vibe, so let's go for
All
Planet
right,
Mood.
let's check it out the mood. All right, okay. I'm trying to open the mood detail, but it doesn't work, and definitely worked in my dev environment before. Um, all right,
Can,
that's one thing that's a bit off. Uh, let's check out
can
the
we actually buy
card.
it?
Yeah, let's check out the card. So there are two mood plans. Maybe let's scale it down to one. We have the stroller, looks good, and also the voice. Oh, that's a hefty bill of $580. Well, I guess today is the day to spend the money. So let's proceed to checkout. Okay, this one is much worse than not being able to see detail. Something went wrong. Okay, let's go back to cart. Well, the items are still here. Maybe it was a one-off. Let's try to send it once more. Okay, the same error. Well, well, well. What are we going to do? Let's, since we set up Sentry, let's check out the issues page. All right, so this is the issue streams. Here I'll see the incoming and new issues. I see the last one is 6 minutes ago. So let me just refresh the page. And okay, so here we have a bunch of new issues. Some are 28 seconds ago. Some are a minute ago. Okay, so what do we dive into first, the detail or the checkout? What do you think it's more important for us to solve first?
Well, if we're an e-commerce app, we need to solve everything, right? But since the checkout
Yes.
might actually be like where we earn money, let's go into the filled checkout, as I guess that's where the user ends up, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like there is the on checkout click. That sounds like a good place to start because we tried to press the button and it failed. So let's hop into it. So as we mentioned, we see the description of the error at the top here on checkout click in the components shop cart. So let's check. We see that it's happening on iPhones. That would align with our simulator here. And let's keep scrolling. And so here we see the stack trace of the error. So it's on checkout click, and we are doing a fetch request to our checkout API. And the response is not okay. It's an error code, and we are throwing fail to checkout. And
Wait,
here we can
are
see.
are we actually able to see like the whole response here? Like we see that the response okay is failing, but like what is the content of the response here?
We don't see the response here. We don't have the body of it. There are many reasons to it, privacy being one of them. But we have even something better. We can take a look on the server side and see if the request was processed correctly or not, if it threw some error. Actually, like if we scroll up here, we can click the full trace button, and that will get us to this page where...
Wait, what is a trace?
Yes, thank you for the reminder. What is a trace? So we are having our application that lives together with our server, and that's how we provide the service, the e-commerce to our customers. And the mobile app and the server communicate between each other, right? Server provides us with the list of the products that we buy and gives us the APIs to actually proceed with the payments and other functionality. And what tracing enables us to do is to relate between the errors and activities happening on the mobile side and the appropriate requests processing on the server side. So that's exactly what this trace view that we will look at now is for. So right here, I'm looking at the trace where we have the upstart and some requests, but this is from the shop page, and I wanted to go to the other one with the error. So
The payment checkout, right?
yes, exactly, with the card. So that is right here. So I'll minimize the detail on the side just so it's, or I make it just small like this. That should work. Okay, so we can see a fire at the end, but how did we got to the fire? So let's just make a small overview of what we can see here. I already see card, that's like a familiar thing that I can grasp on. We've been in a card, so let's open it up. We just see that there was the card component mounted in no time. Let's look at what was happening before. So we can see we are using Expo Router navigation library. If I zoom in a bit, we can see that there was some time where the library process, like now I click the button and all right, this is where we want to go. And right under it, we see, okay, we know where we want to go, but how long it took for the cart page to appear on the screen. So that's this information, so that all aligns, and we have a tab view there. As we've seen, we have 2 pages at the bottom, and then there's the card, which, if I zoom out a bit, renders a bit later on. And so let's now check out, scroll all the way to the end. So we've seen the whole trace took about 6 seconds. So I've been talking, right, showing the items in the cart, and then I clicked. When I clicked, we saw the page with an error. So that's the fire right here. That's the fail to check out that we were looking at. But we have here also something more.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry. No, I just wanted to say, like, so in like what I see here in this trace is like we had a navigational event, so we went to actually the cart page, right? Then
Yes,
there is
correct.
some rendering information, like loading information. The cart component did actually load, mounted, and then from there, like we actually tried to do something. So that's why I guess the 6 second is like 6 seconds, because it took a while before we actually pressed the checkout. But then during the
Exactly.
checkout, something failed. Okay, gotcha.
Yes. Yes,
Awesome.
exactly. The time, the 6 seconds doesn't measure the performance of the app. That's just the time that I, as a user, took before I did any further action, and that resulted in an error. So can we get a bit more information here? Let's check out the post request. So we know from the client side, from the client error, that we did a fetch request. In the code snippet, we've seen that it was post, and we've seen that it was to the checkout endpoint. So if I click here onto the HTTP server post, we can see details about our server and how it processed the request. If any of you in the chat are reading what's on the screen, we can see here there is the Express middlewares, because we are using Express to deploy our backend. We can see here some file operations, because for the demo, we choose to just implement simple reading of the files to provide us with the correct data. And so that all took almost no time, very like fraction of a milliseconds here. But there was an error that states payment provider API key is not set. Maybe I have done something wrong in the configuration. I'm not sure. Let's take a look on the error.
Wait,
Yeah?
before you click, it's like I see another error above that, right? So failed to check out error. What, like, should we start here, or what exactly is this error?
So yeah, we can start there as well. So if we go back here, this is the fail to check out.
Oh, gotcha.
That's the line 20. We throw an error if the API response is not okay. And so
that
that's
corresponds
good.
with, gotcha.
Sorry? That corresponds with the server.
error we just saw. Gotcha.
Yes, yes. And so
And then
here,
the next one in line is the server.
yes, exactly. Like here we already see by Sentry suggested, like in this trace that we were looking at, the span, the waterfall of the events happening, there is another error, and that's from your server. So we can click through and let that load. And let's take a look at the stack trace there. And so we see it's happening in the checkout plus API. We are using the Expo API routes, so that aligns correctly. I see the post function, and on the line 6, we have verify payment. So this is a call to our library that we use for verifying the payment process. And this is actually a third party in this case. So we see our code first, but we see that above it, it's actually the root cause of the error. It's the topmost frame in the stack trace, but it's hidden here because it's not in our application, which doesn't stop us from peeking into it. But just to finish the walkthrough of the stack itself, we see that here are the few more frames where the request was coming from. And let's take a look into the library itself then. Okay, so it checks for the API key in the environmental variable. I must have forgot to set it on our server.
Damn API keys.
Yeah. Every time I deploy a new version of our backend, something new, and yeah, always forget one of the envs.
It happens.
Yes, so let me try to fix that. Let's go to terminal and see if we can do anything about it. So this is our backend running locally. We can see all the requests that we've done. Let's stop it and check if we can set the API key. So __. Let me go back. I see the code example. Yes. Yes. Example provider API key equals my real key, because it's definitely the key that I use. And I would show it on screen so anyone can use it. So
make sure to revoke this key right after.
Yes, I'll make a note. So let's start the server back up. Starting server, it's listening. So now we can go back to the app and let's try to purchase our plan. So we had here mood plan, stroller, Botana voice. Proceed to checkout. It worked out. API key was the solution, and our cart is empty, and soon I'll be able to put some shelves here behind me and put the plants on.
Nice. Oh, wow. Okay, so that basically went from there's an issue in the client all the way to the server, then showing that there is something wrong in the server, although it triggered by the client, and then allows us to fix it right away. So what about the shop overview? Like we had some components there that you wanted to click on, I think. What about them?
Yes. All right. Let's let's close some of the tabs. So I know what I'm doing. We solved this backend error. This is as well from the backend error. Failed to check out as well. It's cleaning up nicely. I hope to walk away from the stream with all tabs with errors closed and everything solved. Let's see if we can get there. Okay, let me go back to the issues. We had the API key and failed to check out. So just to make it really satisfying on the stream, these two, I think they are resolved. They can go away, and slowly we'll get through the backlog of the issues. So yes, as you mentioned, we couldn't open the detail of the products. So from the recent issues a minute ago,
oh,
excuse me.
It happens. No worries. It happens.
I'll zip a bit of water.
Yeah, so like the product page, like our list of products, somehow it did not load properly, or somehow it did something it shouldn't. So how can we?
When I try to click, nothing happens.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, whatever is the latest issue will probably be related to what we're just trying to do. It's like,
yes,
I mean, if you have a keen eye, you might be able to spot it already. But I assume it's something related to the product/ID paths, or like I don't think we actually do like fs open or read file in React Native itself. So I assume it's this one.
Yeah, I think the same. So I will hop here to the request. So as you already said, it's to the products. There is some ID of the product, and we got a 404 response. If we scroll a bit down, we can see we tried actually multiple times. We can open a bit more of the details. We see that we tried to click on the image, and nothing happened, only the request which failed.
So
And
how would the trace log look like for this?
yeah, let's take a look. So we have tracing enabled, as we said before. So we can again go a bit more into the detail. So I'll open the trace again, and for now, to make it easy and visible, I'll hide the sidebar. And well, we see a lot of fire on the right. So let's go through this. Similar to the previous trace, we have some measurements of the navigation and time to render the components on the screen. This one seems to be from the moment we open the app. As I can see here, an app start. If I open app that span, I can see a bit of measurements about how long it took from the UIKit initialization all the way to the JavaScript starting executing in the Hermes engine. And I also see here, after the JavaScript started executing, it took roughly 62 milliseconds before we started rendering the first components. So this is all just to put all the times and milliseconds into perspective, what is taking too long and what is really fast. We are not here for optimizing the upstart at the moment, but we could definitely take a look into it later. So if I again open up more of the spans, we can see a tab view. We've seen that already in the previous trace because we have the two tabs at the bottom. And again, we see some measurements about the initial display it took after the routing processed the navigation and rendered it on the screen. And so we see here a request to our localhost 3000, and that's API products. Okay, so that's the list. That's not the one with the IDE. Also, it's not on fire, so all good there.
Not the failing one.
It's not the failing one. We are seeing the list of the products, so that's good. So just for the viewers, I'll close this up. So we have a space on the screen. Okay. And I'll open the product list here. Let's see what's happening there. So now
we can see like the product list mounting. That's pretty fast. We can see the product cards being mounted, also pretty fast. But then like right after it starts to fail, right?
Yes, exactly. Like everything, the products cards load correctly. And after the cards were loaded, we have here requests, which are exactly to the individual endpoints that we mentioned before. That's the error that we were coming from. So if I hop back, we were on an error page, product/tree, a client HTTP error 404. From there, we went to the trace to actually see this error in the time, what was happening before, after, and also thanks to the tracing related to our server side. So these cards and product lists, they were rendered on the client. And then there was the HTTP client call, which started. We can see that it takes a bit before it reaches the server. And then the server is processing it and returns a response. But what was going on the server? Let's open it up. And similarly to the previous call, we are using the same backend. So we see again the Express middlewares. And because we are using file system and JSON files to serve the data, we also see here that almost 12 milliseconds, that was the most time from the processing. We're just loading the JSON file. And that goes all the way down. So now is the time for me to reveal the sidebar again, because I want to see what errors are happening inside of the processing of the request. And I see here one. That's plenty. We don't have to we need to go step by step fixing our application. I see it's 6 minutes ago, so let's jump into it. And
There we go.
there we go. It took a minute. I guess the live stream is heavy on my Wi-Fi. So 148 events, escalating. Doesn't look good, doesn't look good. So what happened here? So no file, no such a file or directory. Seems like some of our product database JSON is missing here. Okay, so where is the error? Yeah, so again, we're using the Expo API routes. In this case, it's an ID of the product. And we are trying to read the product.json. It seems that in my example environment, this file is missing. What happened before?
Awesome.
No, we only started the server.
Can you expand like one of the frames above, or is that like irrelevant for this case?
Yeah, I can expand them and look more into what is happening, like where the read file is implemented. But we can see that this is outside of our application. There is one instrumentation call. That's how we get the information about how long the read takes. And then we can see it's node internal code where we have the file read. So
yeah, so it's literally just the node internal that is failing because the file doesn't exist.
exactly, exactly.
So I mean, we can fix it now, but I did spot some other interesting things like in the tracing part. Like, did I see correctly that like on the right side in the tracing, you also like have measurements of under general here is like 62 milliseconds, 164% slower than the average of 23. That's actually
Yes.
interesting. As in, could you like spot possible bottlenecks from like, let's say, a database, or like in our case, if the disk gets overloaded on the server, well, then we kind of need to know. Does this help
Yes.
you like figure that
Yes.
out?
Yes, this helps you especially to identify this trace is the correct one that I should go dig into and debug, because something caused this trace to be slower than our average response. So
I mean,
this
it's
gives me
probably,
confidence that I'll find the culprit of why is it slower.
I mean, it's probably the failing file operation that is always a pain. Awesome.
Yeah,
And then when
our
you like
server side is
go,
simple. Sorry.
yeah, no worries. Look, if you go back on the left, like if you can expand some of the tracings, like it's pretty cool that you can go from like the actual iOS app, like see the interactivity on a component level, like what is the user doing, and then right, yeah, you already expanded it, but right after, we move like seamlessly from the client to like the server context, where we can actually inspect the incoming request passing through like some middlewares from Express, and even like the really low level IO operations that Node is performing. That alone is super cool. It's it's like two different systems combined into one, right?
Yes, yes. Like we don't have to think about, oh, we deployed this on the backend and we have here a website or an application or both, and they communicate with each other. As long as we enable the tracing, which passes along this ID of the trace, we'll get it all
Yes.
connected on the backend. And then when we are looking at it, we really can dig deep to the root of the issue, and not just to make the fail page prettier instead of just saying, oops, we could add some nicer animation, right? But that might satisfy me, but doesn't give us more money from selling the plans.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's very close to how Expo operates, as in it's like back in the days, Expo only was a client side thing where You build an app with Expo, but that's it. But now Expo with API routes has moved to the server. So like we also need to be able to check out what's going on there, right? It's pretty cool that this can follow it like throughout multiple platforms. Well, I mean, can you go back to the error or like the breadcrumbs of this error when
Mm-hmm,
you like
mm-hmm.
went through? Because if you're a keen user, you might have spotted something here. We're actually in React Native, right? I mean, we're using Expo, or the Expo app is built. I mean, if you can pop up the app as well, you can see like
Yep.
clearly the bottom tab bar navigator, you can see the header. But there's something weird here in our breadcrumbs. Like, can anyone spot this? Well, no takers yet. No takers yet. Well, I mean, like, oh, can you go to the UI click? Yeah, exactly there. Like,
Yes.
why is this showing a div or a UL or even like an image tag? We are in React
Yeah.
Native, right?
Yes, we are in React Native, but maybe I have made use of example that you guys from Expo provided with a canary of your SDK, and I took some shortcuts to get the app looking beautiful quicker than it would take me to write it from scratch.
I mean, it's not really a shortcut, right? I mean, you've used DOM components. And if you go back like to the app, you can like if you
Mm-hmm.
go scroll up and down, like it's not really noticeable that it's like I mean it's DOM components. It's just HTML elements. Like one of the cool features that we announced at React Universe, hence why I asked for that up front, is that we released the early version of DOM components, where you can mix and match certain components that actually run like differently compared to normal React Native components, and actually can use like HTML elements. Because what we do is the only thing you have to do is like add a use DOM, just like use server or use client directive. And that will create a boundary where like normal React Native ends and like this dynamic React Native starts, where you can actually use HTML. Like maybe you can show it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I wanted to hop into the code. So that's what you were talking about, right? This
Yes,
first line,
exactly.
use DOM. And if we go a bit through the app, so just for the overview, we have the tabs from the navigation, and we have a cart and shop. So that relates correctly to what we are seeing on the screen. And I have
Hmm.
opened here the cart, and I have here just a React Native view. And I also import from our components the cart. I give it from our state management. I give it the cart items. Also pass some functions to the component, and then we can hop to the card itself. I have it here in the tabs. So that's the DOM component, as you mentioned,
Hmm.
with the use DOM. And yeah, here we went from views and texts to diffs and spans.
Yeah, because
It's
this
like
this
that.
is pretty cool, right? Like you already mentioned it now. It's like you were like how long did it take you to like put this app together?
Oh, just uh, just a few, literally a few minutes. How long it took me to find the code for the nice cards? Hit Command C and Command V into our project, and I was ready to demo it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the as Evan mentioned during the React Universe talk. It's like building an app out is, I mean, can be pretty gnarly. Like you have optimization things that you might need to do, or like you have to translate like existing web code to native, and that basically goes away with this, where you have a faster time to market, as in you can literally scram whatever you have, put it in there, and at least try it. And if it's worth investing more time in, you can actually like migrate every component, like component by component, over to native. I mean, like in the end, native will be better than like dumb components, but it's a very great start actually.
Yeah, and it's super fast. So I could have built this navigation to have the shop and cart, and then just plug in the cards that were already designed for the web. And I have very quickly an example that I can show and work with. And as time goes, I can convert these to the native as needed. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I see a really interesting question from Music on Guitar. Like, is it on WebView? Well, before we answer that question here, I think it will be cool to like, can you go back to where this product card is being rendered, or maybe even the card itself?
Yes,
Um,
yes, yes. So that was the card index, and yes,
so here we are actually still in React Native land, right? Like this is
yes,
Expo router, just using a tab view. And then as you can see here in the wrapped card, basically we're providing state and like even functions from
yeah,
outside of like the DOM component into the DOM component. And then like how DOM components itself works, I mean, if you want to see the full thing, um, check the React Universe one, and there will be plenty of other talks in the future about, well, DOM components. But basically, in essence, what happens here is that it becomes part of the whole React tree. We can provide state and provide callbacks, and then it will actually like be passed through a web view as music on guitar is, right? But the whole friction between like going in and out of web view is gone because it's literally just a component. You go like you can call back into the native land if you want native specific features, or like we do, like you can even pass state to whatever it needs to render right away. And that what makes this very, very cool. It's literally, you can mix it around. You can like move some components over to native while keeping some of them in DOM components. And basically having an incremental migration tool on the things that matters most for your app, where you can experiment, you can like iterate quickly and then get things out. And the best thing of all, it's like adding more complexity to your app in that way will like cause a lot of issues and like being able to monitor everything, because the more complex you make it, the more things could break. And that's exactly where Sentry comes in, because as we've seen it on
yes,
the backend, right, like you could show up the exact node operations, IO operations that we do, um, seamlessly in one view. And having the
yes,
DOM components as a different context in here, it's fine. Like you can actually trace it down all the way on
yeah,
component level too here as well.
yes, exactly. As you're saying, we mentioned on the beginning on purpose only the server and the React Native application, and we didn't set anything about WebView or about DOM components because as we were going through the trace, we've been seeing the tab view was mounted. Then when we scrolled a bit down, we saw that the product list was mounted and the product card was mounted. But actually, all of these, that's the DOM component. But as seamlessly as we go between the server and the React Native app, we also go inside of the React Native app between what's actually React Native and uses the React Native primitives and what is a DOM component and uses the web elements.
Yes, exactly.
And we don't have to think about it because we have the whole picture of the application here.
Yes. All right. Let's see if there are more questions. I mean, we can see we have Evan here in the chat, which is great. One of the other questions here was maybe interesting for you, Krystof. Let me look it up. So one of my preferred workflows involves identifying, well, a Sentry issue, automating the triaging process and resolving it. What would you say about this approach? Or do you have any thoughts?
Let me iterate. Let me read it once more. One of my preferred workflows involve identifying Sentry issues, automating the triage process, and resolving it. I'm not sure what is the question.
Well, maybe we can rephrase this a bit as what is a recommended workflow for debugging mobile apps on Sentry? It's like, are there ways to automate things, or like, what can we do? It's like enable tracing for sure. I mean, that's I guess a good tip.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, now I understand. Yes, so I would start from a notification. So I wouldn't go to Sentry like, oh, what are the new issues today? I would let Sentry to notify me like, okay, this is becoming a trouble. Like maybe on Friday I released a new version of the app, and then I go on enjoying weekend, and Monday open my mailbox or take my phone into the hand, and I see notification where it's like something went horribly wrong with that release. So that's where I would start and dig from there. That's kind of what we did here in the issues stream. But like it will take us right away to the error page where we can start exploring what's going on, and gives us some information about how often it's happening and how many users it's affecting. In our example, it's just 2 users. It's just you and me using the app.
Yes, exactly. And well, in this case, well, Frank, if you have like this detailed amount of monitoring, if there's any error coming in on Friday, you know exactly what to do and how to fix it. So I guess get on our level. Um, all right. Are there any more questions before we wrap it up? I mean, if you have a question, feel free to drop it. I can see one from Keith. Like we briefly touched on this, right? Where how would like the tracing in general work? Like exactly like matching those client and server errors and like adding different platforms like Android, iOS. It's all a mess if you have to do it manually. It's like how does that roughly work in Sentry?
Yeah, we haven't done it yet, but we can peek into the Sentry inits here. And so I have here a file called server where I initialized the Sentry node actually, because uh, we are using Express and the node environment. We wrote the API routes in TypeScript as well, where I enable Sentry for the backend side. And I enabled the traces here. I set it to 1.0 because we want to get them all. And that's all I had to do, and then it's good to go. And I can go also to the mobile here, and similar thing. I import from React Native because we are developing React Native application. I have here the React navigation integration, which works as well with Expo Router as it is built on top of React navigation. And again, I have here traces sample rate 1.0 because we want to get all the information. And then there is this important part that's trace propagation targets, which lets me specify array of strings, or in this case, I put a regex that matches any string because I want to get the trace propagated to all the targets, meaning all the HTTP calls that the application does. I want there to be a header attached, which identifies the trace. And this is something that the server-side Sentry that we initialized will pick up on and use to identify the trace as well. And that's how we link together in the trace view all the items that were happening, as they all have the same identifier, which originated in the mobile app.
That's
And it
actually
was
pretty
spread
cool.
it from there.
Yeah, so it's just like a unique identifier for the whole going from client to server, going back to the response. Awesome.
Yes.
I think I saw another issue or a question here. Um, when when EAS update will work properly with Sentry? Well, Krystof, didn't you give a talk about this at AppGS this year?
Yes, I did. I actually showcase a tool that we developed together that was called Sentry Expo Source Map Upload, which is a wrapper around our existing tooling, which makes it one command, hit enter, and get ES update source maps being uploaded. So you get the correct stack trace and line numbers and code snippets as we've seen in the example. So I would say they are working properly, and if you are not on the latest SDK, just upgrade to it and use this new command, and you should be good to go. As you mentioned, I gave a whole talk. There is a YouTube video on it where I go into the details. But in short, it again uses a unique identifier to avoid of like having users specify manually, okay, like this is my source map for this release of the application. And
Yes.
that's the tool to fix all possible issues that that might arise from misconfiguration, as we've seen in our demo, where I forgot some environmental variable to set, and then things start falling apart.
Yeah. So in essence, like take a look at the Expo docs on Sentry. Like we have some clever workarounds there where you don't have to manually upload your source map. And then how we can link like an actual build to that source map and then have everything work together seamlessly. And as Krystof said, like just upgrade to the latest to get that stuff. If you want to know more, I mean, like feel free to check back Krystof's talk at AppJazz. It was very fun to be there. All right, well, let's grab one more question here. Is Sentry hiring? Well, I mean, before I let you answer that one, if you want to reach out to me on Twitter, we're also always hiring, so feel free to reach out on me. But yeah, I mean, does Sentry hire?
Yes, just go to the /careers and you can see all the different positions. But we also are always looking for React Native engineers as well. So yeah, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Well, before we go, is there anything you want to plug still? Anything new from Sentry?
Yes. So as I mentioned, we used in the project upcoming version of Expo, but that wasn't the only new thing that we used. If I find it in the dependencies,
It should be here somewhere.
Yes, we also used a new major version of our SDK 6.0 that soon will be coming into the release, stable release. So yeah, if you liked what you've seen and all the connections, like I invite you to download the latest beta and give it a try.
Awesome. Yeah, and on our side, if you are interested in DOM components, check out our Evans Bacon's Canary project that is online on GitHub somewhere. We might be able to share the link. If not, just search for Evan Bacon. On Twitter, you would probably be able to find the DOM components tweet. There will be a lot more to cover with DOM components. Either look at me or like find me at React Advanced, where I'll be talking a bit about it as well in London at the end of October. We will be hosting Evan as like a live streamer as well. And we will have a launch week again, like somewhere in the end of November. But yeah, a lot's more to cover. We just tapped the surface and it will be very, very awesome. All right. Well, thanks for the demo, Krystof. You've been amazing.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to put it together.
And yes, and well, thank everyone to listen, to view, and ask questions. I hope it was useful. I hope it was fun as well. And I will catch you all in the next one.
Yeah. See you, everyone. See you later.